Okay, here we go. How are you supposed to wash your hands? How are you supposed to wash your hands? Come on, you're just put latex gloves on. It's fine. The truth of the matter is that it's fine. However you do it, it's going to be okay, right? If you do it 1-2, 1-2, or 1-1, 2-2, whatever, it's fine. It's going to be fine. The important thing over here is that the water covers the whole of the hand. Okay. And you should look at your hands briefly before you wash your hands, just to make sure there's no obvious dirt on them, because that means it's going to be a problem with regards to the water. The water's got to touch all of your hands, so if you've got like a piece of something on your hand, then it's not going to touch it. However, if it's something which has sort of like, I don't know, ink, for example, so ink is okay, because ink is not, it's not sitting on, it's sort of worked its way in. That's not considered in the halacha to be something which is a barrier between the water and the hand itself. Other things that you need to be concerned about, especially, I guess, if you're a woman, which I'm not convinced, I haven't come to a final decision of it, but I'm not convinced that you are. Perhaps I'm wrong. If you wear rings, for example, is a ring considered to be something which gets in the way of the water? Well, it does very much depend. If you never take your ring off, right, and some women don't, they just stay on. Some women don't take their rings off because they can't get them off. The wedding rings, for example, they put them on many, many years ago, and now they have a bit of trouble actually, getting it off at all. But some people, they don't care, right? So what is it? What is a measuring rod? If you don't care at all, then you don't have to take your ring off when you come to wash your hands, because that's not called a barrier, right? But if you would take off your ring, for example, one of the classic examples that's given is when you come to knead dough, right? Lots of people, they may keep the rings on for all kinds of things, but kneading dough is it's a very messy, very sticky business. And so if you take your rings off to knead the dough, then you should take your rings off when you come to wash your hands. Men, I don't know, again, men that wear wedding rings, for example. So the chances are that they very, very rarely take them off, if at all. I don't know. I don't wear one, but ask your friends. I don't know. But in general, right? If you take your wedding ring off, then I guess you have to take it off when you come to wash your hands as well. It shouldn't be any different. The halacha for men shouldn't be any different than the halacha for women. What do you do if you're working? You work in construction, for example, or you work as a sofer, right? A scribe. Or you make tefillin, right? You're working constantly with black dye. That's I don't know. You work in a garage, right? Fixing cars. They've got this gunk that they put their hands into to get rid of. But you can see somebody who's involved in that kind of work. What does somebody like that have to do? He's okay. That's considered to be a part of his hands already, and he doesn't have to get it on. He doesn't have to take it off in order to be able to wash his hands. That's okay. Small stains, again, you don't have to worry about little stains. We're talking about things that, take a look, have a look and see, right? Yes, a little bit of ink over there is okay.
Since third grade, though.
Might be the last time you ever wrote anything, actually. What about if you've got a scab? So having a scab is also not considered to be a chatzitza, a barrier between the water and the hand. And it's okay to wash your hands. You don't have to pick it off in order to wash your hands properly. Here's there's an interesting halacha over here. It's not a halacha, it's just like a piece of advice. Women, very often, when they take off their rings in order to wash their hands, so, in order not to lose their rings, you can put them down. They're rather small little things, they might disappear. So they'll put them in their mouths. They'll hold them like, and then they'll wash their hands. The problem is, if you're coming to make the bracha, right, then you've got to, your mouth, either swallow the ring, or you've got to take it out, but you should not be making a bracha whilst you've got a ring stuck in between your teeth. I once heard a story, I really don't know until today if the story is apocryphal or not, about a family who became Balei Tshuva. They became more observant, and they sent their daughters off to the local Beis Yaakov school, and after they finished school, they went off to seminary for the year, come to Israel. And when the daughter came back for Pesach, so her parents asked her, she'd had a birthday, asked her what did she want for her birthday. So she said that she wanted a ring. So actually we were talking about this the other day. Said she wanted a ring. So they were a bit, a little bit taken aback because they hadn't brought her up being particularly interested in jewelry, and off she goes to Israel to seminary and comes back wanting a ring. It's like a little, hello. So they asked her why. So she said she wants a ring for the mitzvah. So the parents were completely flummoxed, like, what is she talking about? So they said to her, what mitzvah are you talking about? She said, the mitzvah Netilas Yadayim, of washing hands. So they're like, what have they been teaching you? What's going on? She says, no, she says she sees that all the girls, when they come to wash their hands, the first thing they do is they take off the ring and they put it in their mouth, right, in between their teeth, and then they wash their hands. Right? And she thought that was an integral part of the mitzvah. It's like what we were talking about the other day. Yeah, but you got to be careful what you do, because people will follow you. I remember. I mean, you've got to be English to really appreciate this one. But when my brother got engaged, so his father-in-law made a very big engagement party, and they put up a big marquee in the garden, and it was a real fancy thing, and it had a chandelier in it, and it had this fountain. At one side there was a fountain in this marquee, and everybody was lining up to wash their hands, right, in order to be able to eat bread. And you see, all these English people, they see a line, they just get in it. It's like, afterwards they'll find out what they're lining up for, but in the meantime, it's a line, So they write a queue. I would have said queue, but I don't think everybody here knows what a queue is. I mean, they know it's a letter, but aside from that. What we call a queue, and which has got a rather bizarre spelling. It's Q-U-E-U-E. It's kind of a, whatever. You really do have to be English to appreciate a queue, that's for sure. So everyone's lining up to wash their hands, and you see these people getting up there, and they get to the thing, and they fill up. There's things like spritzing out the whole time out of these little faucets. So they're filling up the cup, and they wash their hands, and then you see them going like this, and then they turn to the person behind them and say, "This is not water, it's apple juice." And the person behind is like, okay, and then he just picks up the cup and fills it up and starts washing his hand, and then repeats the whole thing. Wait, no, this is apple. Okay, and then just like one after the other. It's like this is an English thing. I stood in this line, right? So I may as well, go through all to the end. Whatever. It was a drinks fountain, but it didn't say anything, and everyone just assumed it must be for Netilas Yadayim for sure. Yeah, so be careful. Be careful what you do, because people copy you, and then all of a sudden you've got a whole following of people doing these bizarre actions because you never realised that what you were doing was bizarre. Whatever. Anyway, what about nail polish? I don't know if anyone here is wearing nail polish. Are you wearing nail polish? No? No? Okay. Not today.
Not weekends.
It's Sunday today. What about nail polish? Is that considered to be what's called a chatzitza? Is that a barrier between your nails and the water? So the answer is no. Here everyone's busy saying no already. So the answer is no. No, it's not. It's considered to be an integral part of the netila of your hand. However, there is an opinion which says that if the nail polish is cracked and it's brittle and it's been on for a while and it's obviously beginning to flake off and everything, so then it could be that it really is a problem with washing your hands, and you would either have to, refresh the nail polish or to take off the nail polish before washing your hands to recite the bracha of Netilas Yadayim. Again, I imagine this is probably something that you people may not have to worry too much about, but just in the future, just in case, don't say I never warned you, right? Okay, let's talk about something which maybe we can all relate to, and that's Band-Aids. What happens if you've got a little boo-boo on your finger, right, and you've put a what we call a plaster, but you people call a Band-Aid. So take it off, not to take it off, yes to take it off. So there's an interesting thing over here. If it needs to be on, right, it's very often at the beginning when you've got a little boo-boo, it does need to be on the whole time. So you can keep it on. If it's something that can be taken off and put back on afterwards, so it would be better to do that. If the Band-Aid falls off during the meal, so there is an opinion which says that you should rewash your hands without a bracha, right? Just go back and rewash your hands in order to wash the part of the hand that was covered with the Band-Aid to begin with. Here, right? What should you do? Any one of those things will do. How are you supposed to wash your hands? Well, you're supposed to use something called what's called koach gavra. Koach gavra is that you are washing your hands. You're doing something in order to wash your hands, which means you cannot just go to an open faucet and stick your hands underneath it. That's not going to cover the obligation for washing your hands. And if there is no, if you've got nothing to pour the water into, right? So you're all familiar with the Netilas Yadayim keli, which has got the two little handles on the side. And if you don't have anything like that, what is the best thing to do? Well, the best thing to do is to open the faucet and then let the water pour out over your hand, close the faucet, then open the faucet again and let it pour out over your other hand, and then close the faucet and keep doing it that way, because at least that way you're involved in pouring, right? You're involved in getting the water out over your hands. That's what's called koach gavra. The initial, the best thing to do is to have something to pour the water into from the tap in order to be able to pour that over your hands, though.
I read that wasn't halakhically permitted.
What?
The opening and closing of the faucet.
It's again, what I've told you is based on the Mishnah Berurah. It's based on a Shut Eretz Tzvi as well, okay. Which means that it's what's called b'di eved. That's for sure, right? There are two different ways of doing your mitzvahs. One is lechatchila, one is b'di eved. Lechatchila is doing it the very best way, and that would be using some kind of a vessel in order to pour the water out of your hands with. B'di eved, if you don't have any other alternative. So the correct thing to do is to open up the faucet and close the faucet. What's the problem? The problem is like this, that when you open the faucet, the koach gavra, this idea of pouring the water out of your hands, it's only applicable to the first bit of water that comes out, because you open the tap and that caused the water to come out. Afterwards, the water is pouring out by itself, and it could be that the water that comes out afterwards doesn't have a din of being koach gavra. So it could be that the best thing to do, maybe, is to open and close the faucet, often, like a few times, in order to make sure that your whole hand is covered with water that comes out immediately from the faucet, rather than just letting it run. Okay, who needs the Netilas Yadayim? Well, we spoke about this a little bit at the beginning, but anybody who is over the age of chinuch, anyone over the age of education, which is we're normally working anything from 5, 6, 7, depending on how smart the kid is. What are you supposed to do? So again, a child from the age of chinuch is supposed to be using koach gavra. If he's a little kid, so somebody else can wash his hands as well. The Vilna God says that it's okay, even if he doesn't have, he even doesn't understand what's going on. You see little kids, when they get up in the morning, like very little kids, like 2 years old, and they'll get out of bed. The first thing they do is they pad off to the sink and they hold their hands up like this, waiting for somebody to do nagelwasser for them, right, to wash their hands. And good, that's okay, that's very good. Before you wash your hands should be dry, right? So you'll see that some people actually have the custom to to dry their hands with a towel before they actually wash their hands, in order to make sure that that the hands are dry when you pour the water over them. Right? Again, we're doing this as all ritual stuff. What does it mean that your hands should be completely covered in water? From the wrist downwards, right? So from the wrist downwards, that's how much water needs to be poured over. And not to use the cup sparingly, which means if needs be, fill up the cup again and pour it out over again to make sure you've got enough water. All of this is only applicable when there's plenty of water. Right, so for example, Baruch Hashem, here in Yerushalayim, you can open up the faucet and you can get lots of water coming out. If you go camping, for example, and you need to bring the water, or not you, maybe, but somebody else, I'm sure you talk somebody else into going down to the riverbed, which is, like a mile away, and bringing back large amounts of water for you to be able to wash your hands with. So no, that's not the best thing to do. At that point, the best thing to do is to use the minimum amount of water. There's a very famous story they tell that Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, the founder of the Muslim movement, who, when he used to go to people's houses, when he used to wash his hands for Netilas Yadayim, so he used to use the minimum amount of water possible. And when they went to one of his hosts once asked him why, he said, "Rabbi, we've got plenty of water over here." And he said, because the people who are going to get the water are the servants in your home, the hired help, who are normally widows and orphans, because they need the livelihood, the parnasa, and they're the ones that have to go down to the river or to the well and to bring the water back to here. He says it's a lot of hard work. He says, I don't want to be the reason why this person has to work even harder. Therefore, I use the minimum amount of water possible in order to fulfill the mitzvah without causing somebody else to have to go and get down to the river or to the well and bring back these very heavy buckets of water. When you've washed your hands, it's a good idea to lift them up. Right? Why is that? To let the water trickle all over the hand. Right? Make sure that it's covering everything. Your fingers should be open so that the hands can get wet in between the fingers as well. All of that should be done. What is the minimum amount of water to be using? The minimum amount of water to be using is up to the second knuckle. Right, so here's your second knuckle over here, or here. What's this? Is that a knuckle? No, that's a knuckle, right?
I think it says the second knuckle
Here.
ends over here.
Here, right? Yeah. That's what I thought too. I just want to get a professional opinion, that's all. Right, so up to here, covering the fingers, that's the minimum. The idea over here is what? That if a person has a wound up here somewhere, and it's difficult for him to be able to wash his hands, so it's okay to wash over up to here on a fast day, especially on Yom Kippur or on Tisha B'Av. So when we wash our hands, we only wash up to here. We don't wash up to the wrists. We're careful not to use too much water.
Even if we're washing our hands after the bathroom.
Listen, if your hands are dirty, for sure, there's no problem at all, right?
Yeah.
You can wash them. You can wash them up to wherever they're dirty from. Otherwise, if they're not dirty, which hopefully going to the bathroom is not going to cause them to be dirty, then you should just wash them up to here. But like I said, I mean, if you're worried, if there's
What about wet towels? Those little towels.
Yeah. So can you use them? You can use. You've got to be very careful with them, not to squeeze them out. Right? Once you squeeze out any of the liquid, it's a problem. That's a problem on Shabbos. Shabbos and on Yom Kippur, it's a problem.
Baby wipes are a problem.
Baby wipes. So what I heard from somebody not very long ago, that baby wipes from the top part of the packet is okay. Because baby wipes, what happens that they sit on each other. They're pretty weighty, these packets, and as they sit on each other, they squeeze themselves. I don't know how much experience you people have with baby wipes, and it's probably better that I don't know. But the last third of the packet is always a lot wetter than the top 2/3 because it's sitting and it's pushing down, right? Dripping.
What about Yom Kippur? The mother has to clean the baby.
Oh, for sure, no.
She's got
What about the father? The father as well.
Oh, we don't count that. Do we?
Somebody has to clean. Did you change your baby? Do you change your baby?
Yeah,
Of course, right? What's this?
I did it once only, and I remember there used to be the diapers. Remember, it used to be you cover them up and you
Stick them down.
Right. I stuck in one of my kids' stomach. My wife says that's it.
Okay, you see, it worked. Whatever you were trying to do, it obviously worked very well,
I
right?
think I did it on purpose.
Yeah. It's lucky it wasn't a safety pin.
No, not that. My wife won't bother me.
But it's for sure it's okay on Yom Kippur. It's also okay to change. Just got to be careful. Really, you have to be careful with I guess maybe have 2 packets of baby wipes open, and that way when you feel that you've got down into the point where it's getting a little bit damper, you can move on to the other packet instead and use the first 2/3 of the baby wipes as opposed to the very bottom. Because what's the problem? The problem is not the baby wipe itself. The problem is that once you start wiping it, it's going to squeeze some of its liquid out. Squeezing out liquid on Shabbos and Yom Kippur is a problem. Right, so whatever. I mean, I guess the answer to the question really is that just stay in shul and let somebody else take care of it.
I agree with you.
There you go. When you come to wash your hands, you should really wash your hands twice, right? We're talking about over here washing hands for Netilas Yadayim in order to eat bread. You should wash your hands twice. Why is that? Once is to get rid of any spiritual impurity you might have on your hands. And the second time is to get rid of the water which is now left on your hands mixed together with the spiritual impurity. Right? Makes perfect sense. However, If a person were to take a reverse of water, we spoke about a reverse the other day, right? If you take a reverse of water, which is a volume of water, and you pour it over both the hands at the same time, so you have fulfilled your obligation, right? According to the letter of the law, you fulfilled your obligation to do Netilas Yadayim, and you can make the bracha and you can eat the bread. Although it's still better. The best way to do it is to wash your hands twice. That's why you'll realize that what you were both saying is fine. However you do it, right? If you want to wash the first hand, your right hand, twice, once after the other, and then wash the second hand once after the other, you can do that. That's absolutely fine. Or if you want to wash the right hand once and the left hand once, and then wash the right hand again and the left hand again, that's also fine, because you're doing what needs to be done. Again, the best way to do it, if you can, that's to wash each hand twice, but to make a gap in between each time you wash, just a very small little gap. This is based on Kabbalistic reasons. I, of course, understand it completely, but I can't share it with you because you people are too puny for me to reveal Kabbalistic secrets to you, right? No, really, it's got nothing to do with my not understanding, really. Nothing at all. I don't know. It says that it's al pi sod, that for Kabbalistic reasons, you should make a gap in between the two. I don't know. Maybe it's the idea when you come to wash your hands, right? So even if you're washing one hand twice and then the second hand twice, one after the other, but you wash your hand once, pause momentarily, and then wash it again.
Okay.
Right? Again, what's the idea? I don't know. And even if I did know, I wouldn't tell you.
No.
Anyway, when you come to raise, once you've washed your hands, you come to lift them up, you should raise your right hand a little bit higher than your left hand. Interesting enough, in a Netilas Yadayim, you should wash your right hand first.
Yeah.
Right? Even if you're left-handed. Right? You're not left-handed, are you? No, you look perfectly normal.
I got hold of a pamphlet.
Ah, yeah, you found one? Where did you find it?
The Rabbi Pesach Kron.
That's
really?
The mile.
The Moyle wrote a document called Yad Eliezer, and it's a whole selection of
Really?
halachas and
That's
plug
great.
in for left-handed people.
Oh, wait, we were going to make our
I printed
fortunes,
it,
weren't
and
we?
also his wife is going to be in Jerusalem in a few weeks, and she's going to bring me some copies of the pamphlet to add to the.
Oh, very
the
good.
Shiva library.
My son's mile.
He what?
Very good. How was it? You read through it?
I'm not the whole thing. I need to sit and give it a proper read through, but it's interesting.
Yes, it's a lot of information over there.
There's a lot.
Lots of different
I'll
times.
bring it,
And,
I'll show you.
yeah, I'd be interested to see it, actually. Anyway, good. Okay, so everybody, even if you're left-handed, when you come to lift your hands up, you should lift your right hand up a little bit higher than your left hand. Right? That's because the right hand is considered to be more dominant than the left hand. Once you've washed your hands and they're still wet, be careful not to touch anything. Obviously, except for the towel, but you're not supposed to be touching anything at all. And if your wet hands were touched by someone who hasn't washed yet, so you've got to go and wash again. And again, what's the pshat over here? We understand. Well, I hope everybody understands that you come to wash your hands, the first time you're washing your hands is to get rid of the spiritual impurity. Then you're washing your hands in order to get ready to eat the bread. If somebody who hasn't washed their hands yet touches your hands, then they've just brought you back to stage one again. The only difference being, though, that you don't make a bracha. You've already made the bracha over washing your hands, and you don't have to make another bracha over here, but you should be very careful trying not to touch anything once you've washed your hands before you eat the bread. If your hands are dry already and somebody touched your hands, then you don't have to go back and wash your hands again. Right? The only problem over here is when they're wet. Yeah, the problem with liquid is that liquid transfers spiritual impurity. Right? It's a very potent method of transferring spiritual impurity, and therefore, if your hands are dry, you don't have to be concerned about it. But if they're still wet, you definitely do. If two people wash their hands properly and they touch each other after their hands are wet, that's fine. Right? Again, why is that fine? We all know, right? Why is it fine?
There's no spiritual impurity.
No spiritual impurity, so everything is okay. Good. Well done. I've missed having somebody who listens. No, really.
This guy listens. I see it.
He listens to the voices in his head.
Shh. Stop talking, the rabbis.
Okay, what's the best way to do it? You fill up your Netilat Yadayim cup. You should you fill it up holding it in your right hand. Transfer it to your left hand.
So that's good, right.
Right, you with me?
So you can't leave the people leave it in
No,
the
you
sink
could
and
do
then-
that as well. That's going to take care of the first problem.
Okay.
But if for whatever the reason you're holding it, you should hold it in your right hand. Once it's full of water, good morning, sweetie pie. Once it's full of water, we transfer it over to the left hand, and you wash your right hand first. Okay. Look at that. He's 20 seconds. He's been here. He's already agreeing. He's great. I love him. I'm telling you. These guys have been sitting here all morning and they haven't said one word of agreement. Nothing. Then once you come to wash you're holding it in your left hand. You pour the water over your right hand. You then transfer it to your right hand in order to pour it over your left hand. All of this stuff is pretty basic. You'll be hard pressed to wash your left hand if you're still holding the cup in your left hand. You can try, just don't try near me. That's all. We had
Does it have to be fornicated?
yeah.
Yeah. What's that? It has to be what?
We had. I'm not kidding. When I was a kid in school, we had something called dinner ladies. The dinner ladies came out and they put out lunch for everybody, and they were not necessarily always the smartest people. And there was one lady in particular. If you caught her on the right day, at the right time, when she was bringing out jugs of water, and you asked her what's the time, she would go, "Oh, the time? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." And if, a good day was when you could position her next to somebody you didn't like. And then, "Oh, by the way, what's the time?" And it's, no, keep pouring it. It's fine. It's fine. He deserves it, really. So yeah. Don't try pouring water from your left hand over your left hand whilst you're holding the thing in your left hand. I don't recommend it. Whatever. Anyway, if somebody else is washing your hands, right? So for whatever, for example, my mother-in-law has broken her wrist. Yeah, you should have seen the other fellow though. I mean. So somebody has to wash her hands. She's not really very dexterous at the moment. When you come to wash somebody else's hands, or if somebody's washing your hands first, they should wash your right hand first. Right hand, left hand. That's the best way to do it. So here, she has a cast on her.
But you can't wet it.
On her left hand. She has a cast on her left hand, and it's coming down to here because she broke her wrist. So she can only wash her right hand. She can't wash the left hand right now. Mitzvah Hashem, in a few weeks' time, when they take the cast off, then she'll be able to wash her hands properly, right? Where the water that's washing your hands, unlike the water in the morning. When you get up in the morning and you wash what's called Nagelwasser, the first time that you wash your hands in the morning. So over there, you've got to be careful with the water. Right? It shouldn't spill out anywhere, and you should tip it down the sink because it's got a residue of this what's called ruach ra, this kind of spiritually unhygienic. I didn't want to say that because it sounds somewhat antiquated, but there's spiritually unhygienic water that's got to be taken care of. Over here, you don't have that problem over here particularly, and if needs be, you can wash your hands just standing outside, like when you go on a picnic or something, you're on a tiul, and you want to wash your hands, you can just go stand outside and you can wash your hands straight onto the ground. You don't have to be concerned about the water. It's fine.
What if there's no water? You're traveling. You're in a tiul, let's say. There's no water.
Okay. So
For an until you're done.
So let them eat cake.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
No what?
Let them eat cake. You can make a moiti. You can make a moiti, but you don't touch the bread, which means that we spoke about it the other day. That if you've got a pair of gloves or if you can wrap your hands up in something, the truth of the matter is nowadays, when sandwiches come in.
No, you can't do that. Your hands have to be covered.
You know what I'm doing? I don't know. I have to look this up. If your sandwich is covered in plastic
No,
wrap.
you can't. It says in this.
Yeah. The problem is with the hands.
Wait, hang on.
The hands have to be covered. Okay.
No, I mean, there's
good.
no water anywhere.
Good. So here you can
one
cover your
the
hands.
bread instead of the hands. No, this method is not acceptable. The hands must be covered, not the bread.
Good. Okay. There you go. Which means that you've got to have your hands covered somehow.
So
That means, carry gloves. Here, latex gloves, right? They should be absolutely fine. Of course, when you get stopped by the police and they want to know why you're walking around with latex gloves in your pocket, and you start explaining to them that it's because of my bread, officer, they'll say, "Okay, let's go and talk about this." Mishnah Berurah. Good. Okay, very good. That's good. Mem Bet is Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah.